in partnership with our diverse community. Our first business is to appoint a Board of Education secretary. Do I have any nominations for secretary? Dr. Brandon.
Secretary of the Albany Board of Education.
Is there a second? Ms. Savage seconds. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, will you accept this nomination? All in favor of Mr. Kenneth Bruce to be our next secretary? You can vote for yourself. You don't want it to be unanimous. It's unanimous. Oh, you're abstaining? So that is, well, and any abstentions? Mr. Bruce abstains. That passes. Let's all give a round of applause for our new board secretary.
Don't forget the cookies.
Fair. Next up, we have our superintendent's report. Dr. V.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. Earlier this week, our special education department submitted its 2014-15 suspension data for students with disabilities to the state education department. I'm pleased to report to you that our data indicates signs of positive change. For the first time in many years, we are under the designated threshold for the number of students suspended for more than 10 days. Even though we are recognized, we also know that there's still much work to be done. But this report tells us that we are headed on the right track. I'd like to commend our special education staff, teachers, and our principals for their commitment to improving their practice in this critical area. I'm grateful to all who have monitored our data closely and focused on supporting our students' needs. We will need to continue to improve our work for 15, 16, and beyond. If we are successful in remaining under the designated threshold again next year, we will have achieved one of our most important organizational objectives, getting off that list. In this case, SED citation lists for disproportionality of suspensions among our students with disabilities. The year ahead will be about continuing to build the internal capacity to self-monitor and provide the right supports for our students. I would like to say thanks again and congratulations to our team for the hard and good work all contributed to help us finally move the needle in this area. As you know, our summer school programs are well underway at all levels again this year. Myers Middle School is the site for a summer program for 6th and 7th grade students. Our 8th grade students are again in the summer transition camp at Albany High School, helping them prepare for that important step that they will take in their academic journey when September arrives. At the elementary level, as you know, we have revised and expanded summer school to become a full-day program. We've grouped 10 of our elementary schools together in pairs and also are operating separate summer programs at Giffen and Schuyler Achievement Academy. The new full-day program has been generally well received, and we're looking forward to evaluating the new program following its conclusion at the end of this month, and from there deciding how all of our programs can be even more effective in 2016. Of course, I will keep you informed of all that work moving forward. And last but not least, don't forget where you need to be this Saturday is Crank Park in the south end of town from 11 o'clock until 3 o'clock as we celebrate our summer celebration. We'll have a cookout courtesy of ShopRite, fun activities for kids, and most importantly, the entertainment provided by our own Decky Lawson and his band, the East Coast Players. I'm grateful to all of our partners for this event, including the City of Albany and Albany Housing Authority. Rain or shine, it's a fun event. I hope you'll all join us in the park. Please join us if your schedule will allow. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Dr. V. Next up, we have our opportunity for public comment. Apologies as I butcher. Usually there's a statement that I have to read, but that statement has been misplaced. So we welcome everyone to come up and speak with us. We love hearing from everyone. Everyone will have 3 minutes to speak. Our new board secretary will be timing you, so please be kind to him as he does his best first way through. We expect him to do very well. He'll put a minute sign up and 10 seconds sign up. Please do not talk about any specific pupil personnel, staff, students, anything like that is not allowed. We look forward to hearing from you, and our first up is Nolene Smith.
Good evening. My name is Nolene Smith, and I'm a resident of Albany. I first want to just comment quickly on the public hearing for Contract of Excellence. I was around like a little over 10 years when the Contract for Excellence came up, and we advocated for all kinds of things, including extended day. I was really surprised to know that we were still actually receiving funding because we haven't really seen any improvement when any of the target groups that the Contract of Excellence money is for. So I would urge the board to make sure that you kind of ask for a pullout of exactly what that money is being spent for and what are we improving. I mean, I really, it's very difficult to see signs of improvement, but I know that there are things that are specific that we could do with that $1.8 million that came in this year. So even going through the budget process, you don't get a clear sense of what money is going to be spent and to tie back to the improvement for those kids that it's designed for. So one other thing I would like to ask the board to help with is some issues around moving central registration. I know that many people have come up and talked about it, but we really have to move it. You can't just talk about it's not where the underserved communities are. I was out registering people for my summer extension camp, and I'm talking to one woman. I've talked to many people. They just don't go. They can't take two buses. And I was really frustrated. I was at Price Chopper, and this mom comes out. She's got two kids. She's trying to push the cart, trying to get them home. And I'm talking about the camp, and she's like, well, that's so far away. And I said, well, is your son registered for pre-K? She didn't even know that he should be registered for pre-K because she's like, well, his birthday is going to be February. I'll just wait for kindergarten. No, he can't go. So I went through all of that. But then she says to me, but you don't understand. Water Valide Avenue is so far away. I have to take two buses and then drag them. At some point, my kids, my youngest is 21, and we registered at school 16. It wasn't that complicated. They had a table. I walked in with my documents. I signed my children up. The secretary came out. She Xeroxed the things. Xerox then. You can scan now. And we were done. It is not that complicated. Please encourage your administration to move central registration so it can be where the poor people can get it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ellen Roach?
Good evening. My name is Ellen Roach, and I'm a resident of Albany. I came to talk about several of the items on your agenda tonight. I was very excited to hear in your work session that board members are interested in looking at the measurable results sections for contracts and trying to determine if the district has in fact shown measurable results from previous contracts before approving contract renewals. I've been looking at that specifically with some of the contracts regarding, for example, the boys and girls after-school programming, and specifically the Center for Educational Leadership, the studio classroom contract that's up for another year's renewal. It says, the one that you have before you today says the measurable results are studio and resident teachers, participants in the studio classroom PD model will implement strategies from the studio PD sessions in their own classrooms. 80% of teacher participants will indicate implementation of strategies with a rubric. It's pretty much almost word for word the same thing as last year. And last year they said implementation will be measured by an internally developed rubric. And you were given that rubric at your December meeting last year. Yet when a board member asked before this meeting, what are the results that you have for studio classrooms, all you were provided with was a very brief report on student performance information using spring of 2014 data. The report was from last September, and it uses spring 2014 NWEA results. And the district has had access to the 2015 spring results for at least a month, because the report you got back in June that Mark Place produced has June data. So I would urge you not to approve another contract for CEL until you've seen data on how it's been effective with the June 2015 data. Also, last year you weren't given that contract to approve until August, so there shouldn't be any problem with waiting till the August meeting to approve that one. Also, on the matter of the district comprehensive improvement plan, the regulations require you develop that in consultation with parents, school staff, and stakeholders, and the box has been checked indicating that you've done that, yet there are no names or signatures as required, indicating that perhaps the administration did not consult with stakeholders. Finally, the veterans tax exemption, 30 seconds left. Look at slides 10, 11, and 12, and you'll see the structure of the tax exemption program as made by the legislator is regressive. It affects residents more than non-resident landlords. It affects seniors more than younger people. It affects people with lower valued homes more. Regressive taxes aren't good. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Helen Otero.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything prepared to say. I'm a city school district teacher who's retired, and I'm back kind of teaching part-time. But I would like to say that since I'm very interested in improving the achievement of the students in Albany, and if we've been doing this since 2008, I have a suggestion that we think out of the box and look at our students and look at their achievement and try to find a better way, a different way. Because 2008, it's 2015, we could do a better job in thinking out of the box and establishing more appropriate programs that help them to achieve in reading and math. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan d'Entremont.
Hi, I'm Susan D'Entremont. I live in the city of Albany, and I know during the budget time you said, oh, could you please present budget items when it's not budget time so we have time to think about it. So here I am. I have a child at Albany High School. She just finished her junior year. Her fees for what the college level type classes, AP, HVCC, et cetera, this year totaled approximately $500. A parent of another child who's more ambitious than my child told me his fees were close to $1,000 for those classes. I know from my meetings here that our goals is to have as many students as possible take at least one college-level class before graduation. I do know that there are various discounts and waivers in place for students that have free lunch, but even if you're not free lunch, $1,000 is a lot of money. And then also that those waivers and discounts, the students are not often aware of them. They do not often put in the paperwork, and they're not 100%. Like for one of them, I think at HVCC, it's still $75 a class for the free lunch people. And there used to be, I guess through a grant, you could take your AP test for free, and that we no longer have that funding, and they have to pay the $98 AP test fee per class. The fees are at least a perceived barrier, even if they're not a barrier, the students and the families are perceiving it as such because they don't understand what can be done, and sometimes the complete fee is not covered. I understand that many times from guidance that many times Albany High School staff members are actually paying checks from their own personal checkbooks so that students who they feel could benefit from these classes and who they feel could really could handle college classes will take the classes. But I don't really, I'd rather that our staff not be paying that money. And I've gotten up here, and I certainly don't advocate cutting arts and sports and extracurriculars. I've probably been up here advocating all those things. But really, I mean, what's the first goal of a school system is really academics. So I'm wondering if you could think about if the budget could include money to help reduce a lot of these fees, and also a process to streamline, because there's all different fees and all different ways to pay it for the different tests, to streamline that, and also to get the word out about, I know Albany Fund for Education has things, get the word out about how these things can be paid, and also if there would be a way, it would be great if we could just reduce it to the students having a nominal fee for each class to understand the seriousness that this is a college class, but that the families aren't thinking, because, yeah, they're saving money in the long run if the kid goes to college, but that doesn't really help you today. So if you could think about that when budget time comes around to put money towards those fees, that would be great.
Thank you. Emma Conway?
Good evening. My name is Emma Conway. And I see by the size of the board that you did not appoint any new members. I wish to applaud you for not filling those vacant school board seats. The honor to serve on the school board is the prerogative and responsibility of the citizens, and not to be done through the school board for the citizens. That's my opinion. I further feel that if the candidates whose information I read a few days ago really want to be on the school board, they will have the pleasure of working for the seat, such as climbing stairs, pounding the pavement, passing out literature, and shaking the hands of the people whose children they're here to serve. And therefore, I feel that they will more likely stay focused on their mission. I applaud you for letting them hit the pavement if they want to be on the school board.
Thank you very much. We still have some time in this agenda item. Is there anybody that did not sign up that would like a chance to speak? Anna Marie Lippett.
I just wanted to say my daughter went through the Albany school system. She graduated. She was here from K through 12. She got an excellent education, and it's because of the teachers she had. I want to tag on to Susan's comment. Very, very expensive to have a student be a senior and go on to college. I spent over $800 applying to colleges. That was with half of the colleges having a waiver to the fee per application. I spent over $600 for my AP and IB tests this year. And total for senior year activities, I spent $400+. It's very, very expensive, and I thought about all the kids in our district and, how are we going to pay for these things? How can they do that? But it is expensive. And I just want to thank you. She got a great education.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have discussion, grade configuration. Robert Hendricks.
Well, I won't take up too much of your time today. We had scheduled this update so that you could get an update of what we've accomplished so far, and also so that the public can be aware that something is being done and that there's a way to get information. The first thing that I'd say is for those who have not been involved in the process so far, which I think the majority of this room has been, there's many people here who have been involved in some part of this process, please go to realigningopportunities.com and you'll see the process as it builds. So tonight we're just going to take you through a couple of things that will tell you where we're going, or where we've come from and where we're going. Our first meeting with the steering committee, the grade configuration steering committee, was May 27th. And it was basically an organizational meeting. We enjoyed getting folks together. We had a great showing of nearly 40 people who then volunteered for various committees. We had 3 committees in the grade configuration steering committee, subcommittees. And it was from there that we jumped off and that we began organizing what we would do from that point. Our next big discussion was at the June 23rd community conversation. There you see it on the screen. We had a wonderful time with the community. One of the things I've been struck with so far in this process, of course, people are interested in it, and obviously there's a lot that's being discussed, but the fact that we have, especially at the end of the year and in the beginning of summer, so much participation and so much willingness of the community to come out and to participate in this process, this is really going to help make this a successful process in the end. What we're trying to do to the best of our ability is get as many folks involved as possible in conversing about this. This is big. We want a decision. I know the board wants a decision that's going to be sustainable for years to come and not a patchwork decision. And we have a lot of work to do. And so we appreciate the community being involved in that. So that conversation was a really powerful moment, I think, in this process, and gave people the chance to really get their input on various parts of the issue. So we were glad to have that happen. We had our first working meeting of the steering committee on June 30th. It was, again, surprisingly very well attended, only surprisingly from the standpoint of me. You probably weren't surprised, but we had most everybody there. And I can also commend this board because you all have been involved from the beginning of the process. Now it's not the majority of the board, it is the board that's involved in this. And so we appreciate that too. Because as you are involved in the process and build hopefully your faith and trust in the process, it will be easier for you to make a decision down the line. So that was a great meeting. We broke up into subcommittees, and we each had an essential question at the subcommittee. Each subcommittee did. They came back and they talked about the answer to that essential question and also the supports and data that they would need in order to make the decisions moving forward. So we put that support and data request into the administration, and we'll talk a little bit about when we're going to follow that up in a moment. We then met with the subcommittee chairs to talk a little bit about what their feelings were on the process and where we need to go. We mapped out the next couple of months together, and that was a very productive meeting. We talked a little bit about the issues as well. We processed some of the information that came forward from the meetings that we had, and we planned follow-up meetings. So those follow-up meetings, we'll talk about in a moment on the schedule, but they plan to further give some time with their subcommittee in order to refine some of their findings so that we can go into the new activity come the new year with as much data and understanding of the process as possible. We also, as you know, we have 2 videos on the website. Those were videos that came from several days of shooting, so videography. One of them explains the issue. It's right on the homepage of realigningsopportunities.com. And the other is on the pre-K challenge that we currently have at North Albany Academy. We also will add to this another video as the summer moves on the issue with the inconsistency with 6th grade. It's going to be one more topic that we'll delve into from that video footage that we've already put in the can. All of this is so that the community can be with us real time as we build this. As you see, we've gone from 1 to 5 pages on the website. And so we really want the community to see that this has been a process. We want them to be able to look in on the committee meetings. We want them to be able to understand the issues to the extent that we can without them being there. We know the majority of the community will not be a part of the process directly, and so we want to make sure that they understand what's going on. And we also want their input. We know this is not going to get done simply by doing this in a vacuum. And so we encourage, as much as possible, talk about this website, drive people to this website, because it's going to build as the summer goes on and as the year goes on after that. Just tell you a little bit about what do we have currently on the website very briefly. On the main page is the 12-minute video that discusses the issue. And then there's multiple pages as well. This is on the conversation that we have with the community. You see right here is a downloadable document of the findings from the conversation, which includes all the findings that were provided to us by each of the groups. And we also have a video on this page that gives if you scroll down, you'll see this. This summary video, it's actually 43 minutes long on the 3.5-hour discussion that we had that basically goes into all of the groups and their report out there. I think we had 10 groups that night, and also some of the interaction that happened that night. So it's a powerful video. We also have a page for the subcommittee work. And those subcommittees, as you know, the Equitable Program Opportunities and Access Committee, the Grade Configuration Committee, and the Facilities Committee. And each of these subcommittees has its own page. And so, for example, this video is on their first working meeting that they had, along with an archive of their work and a summary of their work, which you can't see here. It's been added to the website. So that's also not only for the public, but also for all the committee members to use as well. So we have all three of those deep inside the website that will, again, continue to build. We'll build on each of these pages as these subcommittees do their work. So we're excited to be able to release this to the community and be able to help them to see what we are accomplishing in this process. I wanted to just go over really briefly two matters. You know, the community conversation was more than simply an exercise in a quantitative survey. We surveyed all the folks who came to that before they came, and they provided some input. But the qualitative input came from the discussions at the table. So the quantitative survey is meant to provide a foundation for the qualitative conversations that happen at the meeting. And so this particular document that's downloadable on the website includes all of the data from the conversations. But these are the priority issues that we came up with in the survey. Equity was number one by far, and it's a major issue. And so I'm going to show you what the subcommittee did on this issue of equity at our last meeting. Grade configuration consistency was by far a second priority issue. Then opportunities, racial balance, consistency in the sixth grade experience, which really you can kind of combine with number two, and small schools. Those were the six top issues. And they pretty much separated themselves from the rest. That's why I'm not showing the mid or the bottom issues that came out, because they really separated themselves from the rest in their numbers. And interestingly, the groups spend the majority of their time talking about especially equity. That night was all about the issue of equity and how this equity needs to be achieved in this process as the board moves forward and we move forward as a steering committee. Just one thought on the subcommittee work. We're not going to show you all the work, nor are we going to show you all the subcommittees. But this, the grade configuration, the subcommittee equitable program opportunities, the subcommittee had an essential question. The question was, give us a statement, a phrase, a definition of equity that could guide our process. And this is their draft statement that could be refined in the next couple of weeks, but it includes this. The district must provide all students with what they need to succeed in a competitive educational experience and beyond, and their achievement must not be predictable by race, gender, socioeconomics, or any other life circumstances. So this is one of the statements that will guide our work as we move forward. So with that said, just some next steps. Where do we go from here? The chairs are reaching out to their members, and in fact they already have, to see whether the majority would like to meet on July 22nd. That will be to review the information that we received from them at the June 30th meeting, and to see whether there are some refinements. Some of the subcommittees may meet, some may not. It'll be their choice. We've already put a data request into the district regarding all the data and support data that is needed from the subcommittees, and we expect to have that information back the week of the 15th. And so during the week of the 24th, the subcommittees will meet individually, preparing with that data request for the September 1 meeting of the steering committee. Before that time, we will also outline a process for the September 1st meeting, which will be 6 to 8:30, 2.5-hour meeting, not the typical 2 hours, and we'll be grappling with some big issues at that time that will include data. We're also going to the steering committee at that meeting and asking if they would agree to meeting every 2 weeks, if possible. Not sure if it will be possible, but we're going to hope to, because we have a lot to get done in a very short time. And then we'll be re-engaging the community in October, November. So that's my quick overview. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions?
Only because I can't remember if this piece of data was asked for at the last meeting, but I know I've spoken to you about it personally. The validation of the work you did for us the first pass and ensuring that the numbers that we have as far as current building capacity are based on real valid assumptions about the building structure. And when I spoke to you about that last time, you said that you had not had the opportunity to validate all of those numbers with the principals in the building who know the buildings best. And I'm wondering if it's your intent to have that done as part of this first set of data that we're going to get in August.
Yes, that was one of the requests made by the subcommittees, and that'll certainly be done.
Anyone else have any questions?
Not so much a question, but a comment. It feels like over the last couple meetings we've had a lot of summaries of what's been done. It's an iterative process, and it almost feels like if people are late to the party, then they just missed out. You have a lot of the information on the website, and it feels like, well, I would like to see, and maybe we can talk about this as a board, more forward-looking discussions. That's just my general comment.
Sure, I agree. And I think what we need to do is map out what we're going to be, what are the milestones we're going to be meeting in September, October. And that's going to be done as well before the 15th.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Next up, we have the Veterans Tax Exemption discussion item. Bill Hogan. And Dr. V. Not Dr.
Okay, this next topic is for the board to consider an alternative veterans tax exemption. It's a new exemption, relatively new. Law was passed, which I'll get into, which enables school districts to participate in this exemption. The next 20 seconds will seem like a lifetime while the laptop powers up as we switch laptops.
Do you want to do item number 5 while we're waiting for them, which is the board vacancies? You can just knock that off.
I will go through the first couple slides, and then we'll catch up with the slideshow.
Or, yeah, if you want, while you're doing that, if nobody objects, we can, I think I'd have to officially amend the agenda, but can I get a motion to amend the agenda to discuss the board vacancies while that, oh, never mind.
Here we are. All right.
We caused that to happen. Karma.
Okay. Okay, so this presentation is actually only going to be limited to the financial implications of the veterans exemption. The city does actually offer these exemptions currently and has for a number of years, as the county has. And the exemptions we're going to discuss, you can also include Gold Star parents who are parents who lost a child in the military. So this law actually, as I alluded to, was passed in 1984. It was amended in December 2013 to allow school districts to participate. And the board did actually discuss this in February of 2014, but no action was taken at that time. The eligibility criteria for veterans to participate in the exemption, if we offer it, is laid out here. The slideshow is actually skipping slides. Okay. The tax exemption is limited actually to the primary residence. It's based on a percentage of assessed value. And what you'll see on the following slides are different levels that could be adopted. Who's doing that? Wow. I didn't even touch it, and it did that.
Oh, well, it's back, so it's good.
We're in like the Twilight Zone here. Wow. Okay. These are three, actually here's four different exemption levels that could be adopted by the board. The first one is the maximum, actually is a minimum exemption level, 6,000. If you go across 10,000, 20,000. I also gave you tables that follow on the basic exemption and the maximum exemption limit, which is what the city has, 36,000, 60,000, 120,000. Then there's actually like an extender beyond the maximum limit called high appreciation. I didn't cost that out because when you look at the numbers on these other three variables, especially the maximum exemption, they're very big numbers in terms of impacting the tax levy. I just wanted to make you aware that there was additionally a higher level available as well. So the key word on this slide is redistribution. When you give a new exemption, what happens if $1 million becomes exempt, that $1 million is redistributed to the other homeowners. So that's how the tax system works. And I want to emphasize the yellow gold bar on the bottom, that all of these numbers are estimates and they will change. They won't change significantly, but with the real tax roll, when that's finalized and the tax rate is accepted, they'll change slightly. So what is the district-wide impact if we distribute the taxes? Right now, I actually know the numbers because the city actually has been doing it. There's 1,913 parcels that would qualify for the veterans exemption. If you look at the second to last column, 1 year impact on what is allocated. If you adopted the minimum level, it would be $371,000 of taxes would be redistributed. If you accepted the basic level, if you look again to the second to last column, $726,000 would become exempt and be redistributed. And if you accepted the maximum level, $1.3 million would be redistributed. So what is the impact actually on a homeowner? I'm going to show you, I keep these color-coded so the graphs that follow are color-coded the same as here. In all of these, this actually shows the impact of on the non-exempt homeowner, what you'll see as at different amounts. So this one slide specifically looks at what if the minimum exemption level were adopted? What's the impact? The first table shows the impact on a $150,000 home. The dollar increase is at $10.40. And on these are the people that don't qualify for the exemption. This is the redistributing amount. So if you adopt the minimum amount, a person that is a non-veteran with a $150,000 home would get a $10.40 increase. And depending on whether or not you have STAR, Basic, or Senior STAR, there's the increase in the property tax bill from this shift. The second table shows the same thing. If you're a non-veteran homeowner and the veteran exemption's adopted, what's the impact of the non-veteran homeowner on the redistribution? It's $17.33. And then the last column says, well, what would that do to my tax bill? For a non-STAR person, the tax bill would increase 0.33%, about 1/3 of 1%. These green tables actually are going to show if the board adopted, instead of adopting the minimum alternative exemptions, they adopted a basic level of exemptions. So if the basic level were adopted and you were not a veteran, your tax bill would increase $20.35 on a $150,000 assessed home, which is about an average home in Albany. And there are the percentages. Again, no STAR, you would increase by 0.64% on your tax bill. The bottom table shows if you're a non-veteran and you have a $250,000 house, that with basic STAR, your tax bill would go up $33.91. It's about 0.75 of 1% tax increase. The last table I'm showing you is if the maximum alternative veterans exemption levels were adopted. Same thing, you're an average homeowner with a $150,000 assessed house, you're a non-veteran. There'll be a tax shift on basic STAR of $37.29, or your tax bill will increase by 1.48%. If you own a $250,000 house, you're a non-veteran. The impact of the exemptions would be a tax redistribution of $62.13 with basic STAR, or 1.34% tax increase. So we showed you the impact on the home of the non-veteran. What would it do for the veteran? These are at the maximum savings to a veteran based on the minimum, basic, and maximum levels. And you can just see the different ranges here. Disability, the last column, is a separate exemption that's in addition to either wartime or combat. So if you were in wartime, you get an exemption if you were in wartime combat, and then if you became disabled, you get the disability exemption as well. So sometimes the question comes up, well, what other exemptions does the district offer? We offer senior citizen with limited income exemption, a disabilities limited income, and a STAR and enhanced STAR exemptions. I updated this. Items 3 and 4 I'll talk about in a minute, but in terms of next steps, the Board of Education would choose whether or not to offer the exemption or take no action. If there is to be an action, we would need to discuss and talk about tonight what would it be, the minimum level, basic level, or maximum level. If you want to do it for this tax year, we would need to have it as an action item at the August meeting. Steps 3 and 4, I had borrowed my last presentation from 18 months ago and should have crossed these off. Since the city has already, people have qualified for these exemptions under the city, under the same rules, they would qualify with it for us as well. So we wouldn't have these deadlines. A public hearing's required. If based on the discussion tonight, if the board wants to move forward, there would be a public hearing at the August meeting before the board meeting, and then the board could take action at the board meeting. So in terms of discussion, it'd be very helpful to try to figure out kind of if there's board consensus on if you want to adopt it, and if you want to adopt it at what level, because the next time we meet in August, we're actually going to set the tax rate, and this has an impact on the tax rate. So from there, I'll turn it back to the president.
So what Bill needs from us, first of all, we'll see if anybody has any questions, but the action items that we all need to do is we first of all need to know if, in general, the board is in favor of this, and then if the answer to that is yes, we should have to discuss which level. So is there anybody, are there any questions first?
So, Bill, the adjustments are all dollar increases. Why is that instead of like a percentage increase?
Because the way it works is you get an exemption, and let's say it's 25%. So you get 25% of your assessed value, but if you're at the minimum level, it may only be on $6,000 as a maximum assessment reduction. So it is going to be the same number because it's a percentage and then it's capped at a maximum. So it doesn't matter if I own a $250,000 house and you own a $350,000 house. We're both capped at our assessment can only be reduced $6,000 based on the minimum. The maximum is a higher threshold, the basic's higher, and then the maximum is even higher than that. And that's just, that's the formula. There isn't really anything we can do on that.
And on the eligibility criteria, those are either or, right? Not and.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Are there any other questions? This is something that's come up several times in presentations. So can I take a straw poll to see if there's a majority of the board that is interested? Oh, go ahead.
Since you're going to take a straw poll on whether or not in favor of it, my being in favor of it is contingent on it being the minimum. So I don't know. I don't mean to throw a wrench in it. It's just I don't want to give you an idea that I would be voting in favor of anything other than that.
Why don't we do a general straw poll and then we can get into specifics? So let's do, can I get a show of hands for people that would be in favor of voting for this? Okay. I'm assuming that then all of us would be in favor of voting in the minimum. I'm going to go out on a limb with that. Is there anybody that would be in favor? Is anyone comfortable going up a level? So can we get an idea of people that are interested basic?
Yeah. The City of Albany has this. How did they adopt it? Was it just voted on by the City Council, or was it referendum to the voters? Just voted.
Yeah, actually, this was way back in 1984, so I have absolutely no idea. And I can answer your other question was in terms of eligibility. The first item, if you're an honorable discharge, yes, you qualify. And then the second item is active duty, wartime. You would qualify under that, or if you are a veteran receiving medals, that would qualify you as well. So these will qualify you, these separate items.
All right, thank you. I guess I feel uncomfortable adjusting tax rates without getting some feedback from the public, and I'm not sure if just a discussion is enough.
And that's when this was brought up, I guess February of 2014. That was something I brought up to say maybe this should be put out in a public vote. And I think, that was we were told that we cannot do that, and that as a result, yes. So, and I mean, I guess we can each individually weigh in on our thoughts on it, or I can just take a straw poll to see if we would have enough people for the basic exemption, and I can go either way. How many people would be in favor of going at that next level up? If anybody wants to speak to that specifically, you're welcome to. So next meeting, there will be a public hearing. We encourage anybody who has thoughts on this to come and speak at that hearing, and we will vote on it next month.
And we're talking about the basic level. That should be the assumption.
The minimum level.
Oh, the minimum I will put in. Okay.
Good clarification.
Next up, we have our Smart Bonds Act. Nicole Lindemann.
We're cooking. We're cooking along here. It's good. I agree. I'm curious to know if there's further climbing things behind the mats. There must be, right? Otherwise, you'd have to be a very large elementary school student to get started. I priced those panels to put in my basement. They're very expensive. Really? It's like $1,500 per. They hung them this way. They're a 4x8 sheet, just like a piece of plywood. They're like $1,500. Yeah. I was like, now how can I make them myself? But then it gets like, yeah. Don't quote me on that, by the way. That's my memory, but I remember being shocked by how expensive they were.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to stand in front of you this evening and talk about the Smart Bond Act. This evening's presentation is just a preliminary steps regarding the Bond Act. So the purpose of the Smart Bond Act of 2014 is to improve learning and opportunities by funding technology and pre-K. There are four main areas that the Smart Bond Act focuses on: pre-kindergarten facilities, high-tech security, high-speed broadband, as well as technology equipment and infrastructure. There are required elements to the plan. We do, as a district, need to demonstrate need. We do have to provide adequate infrastructure. Also, professional development, so we link very closely with our professional development plan. And we need to provide technology support when we put these things in place. Last but not least is we need to show sustainability regarding all of the items we put in place. There are pre-requirements to the Smart Bond Act. We must, as a district, submit to NAREC as a prerequisite before we submit to the state our technology plan as a district. So it's the plan that you approved back in 2013, and it holds true until 2016, so it will be up this June. We had to take that plan and submit it to NAREC, which we've done actually ahead of time, because the plan was already approved. So there are some requirements that the district needs to have in place to look at the just shy of $8 million. It is a reimbursement model, so we need to think about that as we look at the whole plan. The Board of Education is responsible for the reviews. There is a 30-day requirement, so when the board approves the plan that we post it for 30 days. And there is a public hearing involved regarding the plan. We'll provide a final plan for the board to approve, and that's the plan that ultimately gets submitted to the state. We've done a lot of things already regarding the Smart Bond Act so far this year. The Technology Committee has spoken about it several times already. We've had meetings with Mr. Hogan, myself. I've also met with Mr. Grogan, and we've met with Ms. Melissa Hastings. I've also sat with the cabinet. And as I said before, we have already submitted our plan to BOCES. BOCES will have to approve it, and once it's approved, it will go to the state. But first it has to get through BOCES. I've also have sent out a meeting request for the Technology Committee for August 5th. I have also had the pleasure of meeting 2 high school students today to talk about their needs or their thoughts around the Smart Bond Act and what they think we need to do to improve their education regarding in the field of technology and devices and needs that they have to be successful. We're also required to reach out to the SUNY and CUNY that feeds us the most new teachers, so I've been able to speak to SUNY Albany already and get feedback from them. So where we're at with the plan currently is the next steps. So we'll be meeting in August. After that meeting in August, we'll give you a preliminary draft. You'll be able to review that preliminary draft, give us feedback, and then we'll come back to you with the actual preliminary plan. Once you approve that plan, we can post it for feedback from the community, make any revisions, and then in December, you'll be able to, if you approve it, and then we can move forward.
Does anyone have any questions?
So obviously these are fairly general questions since we don't have a specific plan in front of us yet. This is just the context. Are we already meeting the adequate technological infrastructure pre-requirement that you laid out for us on the slide titled Required Elements of the Plan?
Excellent question. We have 12 months from the time that we submit the plan to meet that. We currently have a 750 megabyte, what we define it as a pipe, but 750 megabytes. We need 900. My intent is in September to actually go up to 1 gig. We have to have the financial support to do that. So in looking at the budget, within my budget, I can do that, and I will do that, like I said, in September. So yes.
And then in terms of the financing, I have 2 questions, both of which are really more planning questions at this point because we're not presented with anything yet. But the first one is the two items that you identified, which there are no funds to support, professional development and technical support, obviously can become extremely significant and maybe need to be extremely significant for us to get the maximum use out of this investment. And I just want to ensure that we are thinking that piece of it thoroughly through, and so that when we face the budget next time we know what we're getting at. And then the other one, which is really more of a Bill question, is you specifically identified the fact that it's a reimbursement plan, and how much thought do I need to put into that aspect of it? Is there really a cash flow problem here that I need to be aware of? So those are 2 questions for 2 people.
No, actually the first step will be we'll adopt the plan specifically to fall under the Smart Bond, and then it's going to be a year anyway of implementation. So we have lots of time to plan. It's supposed to be paid through bonds floated by New York State. So I haven't looked at this in a while. I'm not sure about the local share or not, if there is one, because I haven't looked at this in a few months. Right, if it's a reimbursement plan, right. Yeah, if we, as long as we don't fully liquidate our fund balance, yeah, we won't have a cash flow problem.
The professional development, we currently have a technology coach, and we support teachers that way. Depending on what the plan, the draft plan looks at, we may, as a district, have to consider potentially adding another technology coach or reviewing it carefully. So we do have a very solid professional development plan in place, but we want to make sure that the structures are there if we were to, let's say, add devices. We want to make sure that teachers know how to use the devices and figure out how to use them to support the curriculum in teaching and learning.
Are there any preliminaries to the preliminary plan? I mean, I feel like we're talking about something just in a complete abstract.
Sure. I can provide you with some of my current thoughts and conversations that I've had. We need some infrastructure upgrades that E-rate doesn't currently pay for. So we are gathering that information now. My guess is probably approximately $1 million to give us the infrastructure that E-rate won't cover. So those switches, for example. We need the equipment that can meet the level of the 1 gig that's coming into our district. So just because we have the speed coming in, if we don't have the devices or the equipment to continue that high level, then it just slows everything down. My conversations with Jack Rogan would be surrounding the swipe badges and updating. The software is out of date, and we're having some failures in some areas. So looking at swipe badges and cameras, he's recently reached out and received a quote for looking at upgrading some of our cameras. We do have new cameras that were installed in some of the buildings just recently, but we have several cameras that are failing. So looking at that structure. And the students that I spoke to today, they talked to me a lot about devices. They're too slow. And finding that the netbook carts in the high school are old. 3 to 4 years makes them old and slow, and they asked about that. And we also talked about accessibility outside of school. And they wanted me to, and I agree with them, they want me to survey the high schoolers to see how many actually have free wire access outside of school for the internet in order to do home assignments, which I thought was wonderful. A fantastic discussion with the two gentlemen today. You're welcome.
Thanks, Nicole. So I have a question about whether something's possible to do. I don't even know what the cost would be. There's been talk about trying to combine the student ID at the high school with also the bus swipe, the bus pass, because of the upkeep in lost cards and then having both. So is that something that could be looked into and what the cost would be?
I can look into it. It's 2 different systems, so I would have to see if...
I know in some, again, not in our city, but in some districts, SUNY does it. I know there was other schools doing it. I just wasn't sure if it was happening.
SUNY Albany. Okay. I'd be happy to look into it.
Because every time a high school student loses a bus pass, it's $20 a pop, for which a lot of our kids don't have it. And then we get into a whole dialogue with whether or not we can get the free swipes again and who's paying for them. So that would be great. Thank you.
I have a few questions as well. I'm curious about how this is, because part of this is potentially pre-K space and additional pre-K space, and I know that's one of our, as we're going through grade configurations, that could dramatically impact that. Yeah. So what is the role that this have as part of the grade configuration process? I'm also curious about our high school project, the high school referendum. If it's hopefully passed through, could this potentially take some money off of that?
Great question.
And then I have one more.
Okay.
There's just recently a press conference about there's a study that's going to happen with the city and the school district and everybody on the impact of broadband in the city, and how is that weighing into this process as well?
So let's start with pre-K. Let's see if I can remember all of your questions. So we don't have to spend the money in the first year. So we can take our time and do things well and plan them out very well. So the initial thought is to do the infrastructure and security in the first couple of years, which will give the opportunity for the district to review the grade configuration and make a decision on that, and that would leave the remaining funds. So even if we looked at I'm not trying to say that this is final numbers, but it's just a little bit less than $8 million. We do have to put approximately $800,000 aside for the non-public schools. So even if we did $1 million in infrastructure and $1 million in security upgrades, that would leave the remaining funds to do pre-K facilities, the high school, and if we needed a middle school, it could potentially provide that support as well. So, so that's the pre-K question. That's the middle school, high school question, and the last question. I apologize.
No, just that broadband.
The community broadband. The Smart Bond Act is to support. One of the features is community broadband for students to have access to Wi-Fi outside of the school. One thought for me that I've had is to wire all of our school buildings outside of the building. Currently, Wi-Fi is in the building, but it's not outside. So PE teachers can't access it if they're outside and have a device. So one potential thought, is to provide Wi-Fi outside of the building and a range around the school. So if students had devices, potentially they could utilize it. There's a lot of things that would have to go into place.
That's an excellent idea. And I would say, though, when they're talking about outside the school, they're probably meaning in their homes, in addition to, because you have an excellent point there. I mean, what if a teacher wants to teach them outside, PE? There's so many different options. But I think that probably also speaks a lot to kids having broadband access or having high-speed internet access in their homes, which is a huge issue for a lot of our families. So there's so many things that are online, and some kids don't have any access in their home. And so I guess that's, if there's a part in there that could potentially go to that, is that part of the discussion as well? Because that's a tremendous issue for a lot of our families.
Clearly heard that today with the high school students that I met with, and their own personal estimation that it was about 25% of students did not have access to Wi-Fi, or at least free Wi-Fi. But with that comes a device challenge. They need a device if they're going to have free Wi-Fi. So how do we balance that? The other challenge is each school district is looking at that for their own demographics and deciding what they believe is best. We talked about devices with students today.
And so I guess my question with that was, and I totally agree with you, the device is an issue, but it is one of the, it's kind of the chicken or the egg thing. If you make sure that the high-speed internet access is there, I think that the potential of the device could come at some point, but more of that partnership concept, since we're already looking at doing a study with the city, and there was quite a few different groups that were there. If we're already looking at doing a study with them, could there potentially be something where we use this Smart Bonds money as part of this broader partnership to, at least in some parts of the city, have Wi-Fi access so that our kids at home, again, that wouldn't speak to the device, but at least you'd have Wi-Fi.
Yes, Dr. V had invited me to attend one of the meetings, so I was able to attend one of them prior to the RFP being released. So I have had those discussions with them. For the Smart Bond Act, it is about student access, not public access. So how it would be really looking at how we provide, besides just outside of the building, because our buildings are so distributed well over the city, then how would we provide that? And is it a stronger signal? Is it more signals? But it's also the funds and how much you would like to, as a board, spend in this particular area over saving some of the funds or placing the funds for the middle school or high school. So it's really about the total amount of money and how much you want to spend in certain areas.
I actually wanted to ask some of the same questions that Ginny asked about community broadband, so I'm glad that those came up. But then this is a very minor, slightly unrelated point, but was just prompted by Sue's comment about the swiper card combination. One of the things at the elementary level that I hear about repeatedly is problems with, and this is not so much a problem right now because everybody's got free lunch, but when kids have to type in their number, the accounts are always messed up. And so I have no idea if there's any way that this money can be used to solve the problem with the elementary school lunch billing system, which has never worked as far as I can tell. So I'm just putting that out there as something to figure out. If it's cheap and easy and we can make it happen, that'd be...
The bond doesn't pay for software, which is always a bit of a challenge because the software is what ultimately drives many things. But I will absolutely look into it and speak with Lisa Finkenbinder and find out what's going on.
So since we still have a little bit of time, I had one more thing to mention, which I think would be hardware, but it could be software. But while I have you here, I'm striking while the iron's hot. So earlier we talked about, well, we didn't, but Ms. Smith came up and talked about the central registration issue, which we had a presentation on before, and we as a board need to now have a follow-up on. And what would it take to be able to have the computer capacity at each of our schools to feed into central registration so that people could come in and register their children in the neighborhood schools?
I don't know that it's
And if we already have it and we're just not using what's already there in the buildings, that's a separate issue. So is there any impediment from a technology standpoint right now? Is there something, if there is, can we get the funds to do it so that people can register their children at the individual sites which are close to their homes? Or at some school, even if their child goes to a magnet, there will be a school closer to their home.
I'm not aware of any technology barriers associated with that. We've placed a computer available for parents at central registration, so if they need to look up bills to prove residency, we have provided a computer for parents to use for them. But at this, I'm not aware of any technology barriers at buildings.
So then maybe we do need then a computer for parents to use at each of the schools in the office for registration. If you're saying if they'll have to look up other things, maybe then that's something that has to be. It's sort of like when you apply for a Target, they have those things where you can apply or somewhere else to immediately be hired and go on the computer. So maybe we need that at each of the schools dedicated to guardians and parents.
Yeah, I apologize. I disrupted you.
No. I don't know if there are barriers or not, but I certainly would like to know what we need to do. If it's just programmatic and just having someone do it, great. But if it's something that involves an expenditure of funds and a computer, I would like to know that as well.
We don't register online, so parents have to bring documents to central registration. Mr. Harper asked me for a computer because sometimes parents would come and forgot their NIMO at home or something, and many parents do it online now. So he asked if the parents could have access in the event they didn't bring something and they could get it online. So that's what the computer's used for in the event that they've forgotten something or didn't realize they had to bring it. But we don't currently register online because there are certain documents that are required, and parents have to be present to give those hand those documents in.
So, Nicole, if you put the Wi-Fi on the top of the building, what kind of range does that provide?
I honestly don't know. I haven't looked into it other than to say I think it's a good idea for a variety of reasons. Security, safety is one of them. If in the event of a fire drill or the students have to be outside for a period of time, teachers, now that we have BYOD, teachers can actually access it in the event they need to look something up in Power School. So for me, it's just now that we have BYOD, it just opens the doors, so to speak, to help us. So I'm going to look into it. I haven't yet because right now it's a preliminary idea that I will put forward in August when we have the meeting. It's one of the pieces that I have that I'd like to discuss with the group.
Right, and I'd be curious to know, like, the cost to expand that range. Okay. You know what I mean? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have catchment enrollment for the 2015-16 school year.
Kindergarten? Okay, that's right. I'm just make sure. This conversation came out of board members' concerns as we continue to register students for district-wide placement, especially transitioning from our tiniest learners in preschool to kindergarten. We are consistently and constantly monitoring the kindergarten district-wide. Just yesterday, day before, they completed the rollover, meaning the data from last year got rolled over into this year, so we have a better idea of those current numbers. Right now, we have seats for all of our kindergarten students as of this moment. We do have two hot spots we're paying attention to, New Scotland and Giffen, to make sure that we continue to have those seats. We're going to work with Albany Promise, who is working with the early childhood centers that are off-site, because right now we've identified approximately 87 young learners that have not registered yet for kindergarten. And so we're working to reach those families to get those kids registered. And I think we meet with registration almost on a weekly basis right now because the numbers change so drastically from day to day. But that work is going on consistently right now. And right now we have all the kindergartners that we know are all in seats.
So I just have one specific question about New Scotland Elementary, because that was has become a hot spot, I imagine, this year versus last year, because we have 3 kindergartens there instead of 4 kindergartens, which was discussed at some length at the January board meeting. Mm-hmm. And so what I would like to understand is what is the district's intent if we reach a point where we've maxed out those kindergartens at the board policy number. My understanding from the January conversation, although I did not see it completely reflected in the minutes the way I recall it, was that our intention was to allow every child who lived in the catchment area to register for kindergarten, even if that meant we had to add additional staff support, additional aides in the classroom to keep the ratios down. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering if that is still the district's intent, to make sure that every child who lives in the catchment area, ideally in every school, but certainly in that school where we had this specific conversation about it in January when we decided to roll back the number of kindergartens, was still the district's plan.
We will register students in kindergarten until we run out of spaces and chairs. Part of the dilemma is we push in additional support, and you're right, and we will continue to do that. I do think that fundamentally we do have to talk about eventually whether or not a family would be pleased with a classroom of 35-year-olds, regardless of the number of adults in the classroom. But at this point, we are not at that point. We are not at that level at this juncture, but we are already making plans for the TAs to be assigned in those particular classrooms.
Are there any other questions? Go ahead.
What's our current classroom size for kindergartners in all of our schools?
Oh, my.
I thought it was supposed to be 18. 23?
No, it's 20.
Is
Yeah,
it
it's
23?
22,
That's
yeah.
the elementary number, right?
Correct.
For all of our grades in our elementary schools, it's 23 children. 18's pre-K. I knew
Yeah.
somebody was 18.
We're talking about kindergarten.
Okay, so you said that you will fill them until you
We
run
will
out.
fill them, and then we will assign TAs to those classrooms. I think fundamentally, as we continue this in August, if we bring numbers to you that we think is not viable, then we have to talk about that. Right now, we're okay.
But you will fill them as long as you have space at the 23 children per room, right?
No, that's not what they're asking for. They're saying
Well,
to
who's
fill.
asking for?
That's not the discussion that we had at the board table. That we wanted families who live in their catchment areas for kindergarten to be in their school. Once they get in their school and we pass the 23, 24 mark,
Right.
then we have to have additional adult support within that classroom. We will continue to fill them to the point where
Is that the
we have to
policy?
come back. Correct.
We keep doing this every year, even though the policy says
This
23?
is why we do grade configuration.
That's
But-
right.
but-
All
but-
of this
no,
is
no, but
feeding
when
it.
going back
The
4
whole conversation
but
feeds
back-
into grade
no,
configuration.
that's why we're finally doing grade
Yeah.
configuration,
That's
so we
right.
don't have to have a stopgap. But what's happened, and Ginny and I experienced it, I think, the first year, was raise second to last year, and it was that we had gone around when we were running for school board, and we were at PTAs at Eagle Point that year and at New Scotland. Those were the ones that were the hot spots in terms of numbers. There were 30 kids, and so there were not TAs, and we then reported it back, and Dr. Colucciello at the time put in the TAs. So we have had since then a practice, that's a better word. We've had a practice to deal with the bursting at the seams kindergarten classes
With TAs.
with putting TAs in, and now we're going to do more than stopgap, as we
And
know.
we've been dealing with 30 kids in a room with TAs.
28 sometimes,
28.
26. The point is
But it's
do
still past the 23, which is
we
our
are
policy.
we have been past our policy in the last few years. I'm not saying
And
every
so-
year there are, but when that happens,
And so how
Yeah.
long is this going to go on?
until we do grade configuration.
Until we finish
Until
the
we
grade,
finish the grade,
config-
which is just a year.
configuration.
So it's only one more school year.
And it's my understanding that part of this, too, is a conversation is had with the parents, that to say you're enrolling a child in a classroom that is a large classroom and they're given the option to enroll their child elsewhere.
Correct.
It's just
But they'd
the
rather have them
majority
in
of the
there.
parents,
They
and
wanna have them in
understandably, you
where
want
they
your
belong.
kids together. There's a lot of reasons why
They
somebody
want to be
would make
close
that
to
choice.
home.
Yes.
Close to home. Yeah.
So.
And you're saying these classes don't get much higher than 29?
They,
30?
I think my recollection from the enrollment report that we got from Ken in April was that we didn't have any kindergartens over about 22 or 23 right now. Were a couple? Okay. Yeah, they were very nominally higher.
Excuse me, primarily in what schools is this happening? Other than New
Yeah, I have
Scotland?
I actually have the June report, and you have for kindergarten classes that range from 20 to 25, and that's it.
As of
And
this
kids
past
come and
June?
go throughout the season, so it's almost impossible to say this class will have exactly 22
And
the
this
entire
is
school year.
But this report you're getting is of all of our schools, not just New Scotland?
Right. No, I've got all the elementaries right here in front of me, and the range is 20 is the lowest and 25 is the highest.
Okay.
And
No,
then everything in
I'm
between.
just curious about what's happening in all our schools, because I hear New Scotland, but we got some other schools besides New Scotland.
Yeah, and the only reason I think that we're
absolutely.
talking about New Scotland
I'm
is that
just
we reduced New Scotland by a kindergarten this year. That's the only reason it's coming up.
And I'm more than aware of that, but we need to be finding out what's going on in all our schools. That's all I'm saying.
and just know that we are doing that on a
Yeah, and I
weekly-
just
on
want
a
to
weekly basis.
remind the board, and I'm sure everyone recalls this, that the reason this conversation was prompted about New Scotland is that the cabinet let us know that there was a hot spot at New Scotland. This is not something the board is bringing up.
Correct.
This is something the administration brought to us as a concern.
Next up, board vacancies. We just wanted to, although we contacted each of our wonderful applicants and we sent a note out on SNN, we just wanted to do it at a public meeting to talk about the board vacancies. I wanted to really start out with a big thank you to the 11 wonderful candidates that applied for the vacancy that we initially had. We appreciate all of their willingness to serve, and each of us was very impressed with the quality of candidate and the number of candidates. So I think it's really important to begin with that because, and everybody out there should just feel fortunate that you have that many quality people that are willing to do a large volunteer job, because I guarantee you most communities would not have that. Some communities don't even have a full number to elect. So it speaks a lot about the community that we're in. With the second seat open, it was really a game changer for the board. So we were fully committed to appointing with one seat. When two seats opened up, which would be nearly a third of the board, we felt that it was really important with such a large percentage of the board that the public decide their representation of that large percentage of the board. So we are going to we're going to wait until the election in November. After the election in November, there will be 3 seats that will be up for a vote: a 4-year term, a 2-year term, and a 1-year term. And then 2 of those people that are elected will be sworn in at that board meeting following. We are hopeful. So again, a huge thank you to the 11 people who took the time to apply. It's deeply appreciated. Right now, it's currently petitioning time, so if you or anybody you know is interested in serving on the board, it is a wonderful service. It's an important service, and it's incredibly rewarding. And the right person to contact for more information is our board clerk, the fabulous Jennifer Kuhn. So with that, next up we have a discussion action, facilities. And because everyone was so interested in me talking, we're going to keep talking. As a representative of the Facilities Committee. So the Facilities Committee met on July 9th to discuss the athletic field and to make recommendations for moving forward. As a committee, we've worked very hard to make sure we've been diligent yet efficient to ensure our field serves the needs of our kids, is safe, and is ready to use for our gym classes and sports teams as soon as possible. And if I can speak to the process quickly, as a committee, we've had many, many meetings on this topic. We've held a public forum. We've asked many questions and have read many studies. We've also reached out to medical professionals personally to see their stance on the infield for our field and the thoughts on artificial turf in general. And to talk about a couple of things on the grass versus artificial turf. Because of the obvious space constraints of living in a city, in order to fully serve our students, the field needs to be in use nearly constantly. This is different if you live in a suburban or a rural district where there are many different fields and you can have 6 grass fields and constantly rotate them. Our gym students need to use the field during the day. Our teams need to use them in the evening, and it's not just one team, it's several teams. Grass fields can only be used for about 2 hours a day. Again, it depends on the weather, but in general, the rule of the gauge is about 2 hours every day without destroying the field. That isn't enough time for even our teams to use, let alone our gym classes. Currently, our gym classes do not use the grass field because they can't use it and allow our teams to use it. That's not something that we discuss that at length because we really feel like it's important for our kids to get outside and to utilize all of our fields. Because we want to maximize the amount of time our kids are utilizing the field and are outside for gym classes, turf was the clear choice. On the type of infill, crumb rubber, we have read exhaustive studies I can't even, we've joked about how we can be taken to just about any dinner party conversation. I mean, we can really fill in on the type of infill. I know more about infill than I ever hoped to know in my lifetime. We've watched videos, we've read websites, we've talked to medical professionals. There is no evidence that crumb rubber infill causes any health issues. In fact, the major medical colleges have artificial fields with crumb rubber, Johns Hopkins and Cornell, to name a few of them. There is evidence that shows that crumb rubber, because it absorbs better than other surfaces, actually shows fewer impact injuries. The one concern that we do have on a crumb rubber artificial turf is that the field can get very hot in hot weather. We've spoken with both our athletic staff and our facilities staff and are confident that they will be prepared to ensure that the heat of the field is minimized as much as possible. And then if it ever does get to a stage where the concerns about playing on the field, the athletics department will make the call and have the students not use it. Since we are in the Northeast and there's extensive use of these fields in our area, we're aware that this is a rare occurrence in the use of the field, but it does occasionally happen, and all of our staff is ready to respond to that if it does. We feel confident that crumb rubber is the right choice. If at any point there is a discovery that crumb rubber has any health issues, the solution is actually very simple to change. The crumbs get vacuumed up and replaced with a different infill. And that is something that is part of the process for other fields. So our recommendation as a committee, we recommend moving forward with the project as planned. In order to move the project along as quickly as possible, actually, I'm sorry. My notes are too extensive. You don't need to hear all that. Actually, I'm going to turn it right over to Bill.
Okay, so you have in this, in your packet, there's a resolution with 5 items. So you would need one motion to approve the resolutions for the athletic field. The first item is the turf field itself. The second item is the lighting system. And the third item is the bleachers and coach box. Those first 3 items would all be purchased from a cooperative bid. The fourth item is site work around the outside of the turf field, and that actually is you're going to be awarding the bid to the lowest bidder. The district bid that out and got competitive quotes. The fifth item is a resolution to reject the electrical bids. The low bidder had a clerical error, we believe, and the next lowest bidder was over $120,000 beyond the budget parameters. So we believe if we rebid that, that we will be able to get a number closer to the budget. So we would do we would actually put this in motion to start the rebidding process tomorrow, actually. And so item 5 is rejecting the bids, which authorizes us to go back out and rebid. That would be the first motion to approve the series of resolutions related to the turf field. A second motion would be needed to approve the Turner Construction Company contract, who will serve as construction manager for the athletic field project.
Are there any questions or statements?
Yeah, I'd just like to understand the error a little bit more.
Actually, yeah, Rich Peckham is here, who actually analyzed the bid results for us.
On the electric bids, we put out to bid the same set of documents. It's a public bid, so any contractor can bid on them. We received the bids. The low bidder had a major difference in price between the low bidder and the next bidder, which always raises a question in the bid process about whether something was forgotten. We talked with the low bidder, and they realized in analyzing their bid that they had not completely reflected the proper scope of work in their bid, and therefore, with their legal right, they were withdrawing their bid. So that's really what happened there. It's not common, but not unusual for a contractor to make an error in their bid and withdraw it. And at that point, you have two options: either rebid the project or award to the next bidder. And in this case, we feel we're better off financially overall for the project to rebid the electric scope. We have that scheduled pending board approval tonight to go forward, and it will not delay the completion of the project.
I'm good. Thank you, Rich.
On the Turner contract, page 24, there are specifically identified assigned personnel that are not specifically identified. It says, the construction manager has currently assigned the following personnel to the project, blank as project executive and blank as project manager, and I wondered if we had a plan there.
What we know is Carl Stewart and
Yeah, the executive for Turner is Carl Stewart. He's, I think, a vice president with the company. And the project manager, the person who will be on site for the company is Scott DePhillips.
Are any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve the contracts for the athletic, the contract? Oh, you want him. Can I get a motion to approve, or can I get a motion for the athletic field contracts? Mr. Bruce so moves. Can I get a second? Dr. Brandon. All in favor? That is unanimous.
it's been a very busy week. A lot of people, Rich, Carl Stewart, Bill, Dr. V, have worked very hard, and we actually concluded a contract with Field Turf yesterday. So we do have a contract for you to execute, so we don't have to worry about issuing a purchase order as a preliminary document. So they've been very cooperative as part of a cooperative bid, and it was a lot of work by a lot of people. So I'll be having Jenny sign those documents tonight.
I thought y'all was going to be talking while I was going to say something. No, I'd just like to say to Madam President, you had said that your dialogue that you read was kind of lengthy, but I just wanted to say that I think it was very necessary that she went through at length the results that the Facilities Committee came to based on the forums that we had with regard to this. Every single question was taken into consideration and researched, and the committee, based on our findings, recommended that we move with this project. And so that's why we're going ahead. We went ahead with the vote this evening to get this field underway and moving without any other procrastinations or holdups. I just wanted to say that, dear.
And then just in the interest, because we have the facilities committee has made the recommendation to the board, and as a board, we value our, even though I am on this facilities committee, if I was not, it's really valued the work that each of the committees do, because it is, it's exhaustive. A lot of the work that we do, we spend a great deal of time really digging and researching things, which is the work of committees. So in order to move this along, there will be, we're going to be doing a meeting at some point next week, a brief meeting to make sure that our board bureaucracy does not get in the way of moving forward, and we'll be meeting to approve the electricity contract once the bid comes in. And yeah, a full board meeting, yes, which will be noticed. Next, we have the District Comprehensive Improvement Plan.
As you know, as part of SED requirements, in their attempt to align the work, the district has to have an improvement plan that's aligned to the school building's improvement plan. This district improvement plan was not given to us by the state in a timely manner. I know you're not surprised by that, but we are also held to a deadline of July 31. Our district, unlike others, because we have only one board meeting, then forced us to do this work almost right up until yesterday's, blitz of photocopying, in order for us to get this work in front of the board for you to approve. As far as the State Department of Education is concerned, it's fascinating because we prefer to talk about it at length with the board, but I do believe SED prefers this to be a hoop jump where we would rather talk about the depth of the work. So while I don't think we will need 30 minutes to talk this all through, I did want to make sure you had a chance to hear how this was put together. So I don't know who is first up. Karen, Tanda, and we can talk about this plan, and then we'll go.
Am I? Okay,
Yeah,
I'm on.
just to clarify, there were 30 minutes for two sections, the
Right.
field and this.
Right.
Then I promise we will be really brief.
So Cabinet has actually used the DTSDE reviews from all of the schools as well as the district review. And what you'll find, if I can just walk you through the layout of this and how the state has pulled this together. The pages are numbered. So if you go to Tenet 1, and it says on the bottom that it's page 1. I know. So at the top of the page, it says Tenet 1, District Leadership and Capacity. And this will just show you how all of the tenets are laid out. It's a completely new template from State Ed. So what you'll find is the HEDI rating at the top that the district received from the IIT review team. That's a State Ed review team that comes in and does a 2-day audit of the district. And when that actually occurred, so you'll see that that was actually quite recently. The next statement, the need statement, is actually a statement that comes right from the DTSDE review. And so this year what we've done with our goals, and we actually had SUNY Albany Center for Human Research and Albany Promise help facilitate this. All of our goal statements are aligned to the need statements. And then we are pulling in the metrics that we'll use to measure progress against that goal. And down below are the activities to get us to that goal. These activities will be developed into a work plan that Cabinet will review on a monthly basis. So each of the 6 tenants are set up that way. One of the things that DTSDE did tell us, and again, there's contradictions here. This is one of the big contradictions that just blows my mind. SED has assigned us 10 different goals that we had to write, areas that we had to write goals for. Our DTSDE review told us to be focused on 3 to 5 goals. When we reached out to SED and said, how do we do this when you're requiring 10 goals, they said, you can make it work. Well, so you might see some, as you look through, some like underlying themes. And actually, we have looked at our DTSDE review and have actually come to consensus on where the focus needs to be for next year. And we've identified 3 of these. So 4.1, 2.1, and 1.5 are the goals that are our primary or priority goals. And we'll actually look to make sure we have data around them on a regular basis. Reporting out to the board 3 times in this year, this upcoming year.
Could you just tell us what those 3 are?
So 4.1 is Tenet 4 is around instruction, and all of our data this year shows that we really need to focus on student engagement. So how do we engage students through instruction? 2.1 is about school leadership and decision making. So how do we help school leaders and support school leaders to make decisions as a central office? And then 1.5 is all about data. It's the data-driven decision making. And that's really about cabinet using data to make decisions and drive the decisions we make.
Now that Ken is an officer, I always seem to get to ask the first question. It's a different place to be. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions all in a row, because that way I'll be more efficient with my question asking, and I reserve the right to want to ask more questions later. Question 1 is, can we please make sure someone copy edits this before it is turned in? Question 2 is, on page, the page is titled DCIP Plan Overview, page 1. And then number 2 says, rate the degree to which the district successfully implemented the activities identified in the previous year's DCIP. And we have included some text that says, limited degree, 20%, and this is an estimate as we do not have state assessment results back, blah, 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 and I don't understand how those 2 things tie together. My next question is the same as one of the public comment people's question, which is, why is our district leadership team page blank? And then finally, also in Tenet 1, there's some talk about student learning plans that will be delivered to parents 3 times a year, and could somebody describe those in a little more detail? And I did write those down, so if you don't remember them, that's okay.
Yes. So yes to the edit copying. I mean, we are still pulling this together as we speak. The DCIP plan overview page, all of our metrics on our vision cards come from state assessment results. And that's how we had set up last year's, was all around the vision cards, so we can't actually give a definitive.
I guess the reason I'm not understanding is that this question is about, have you implemented the activities? It's not about, were the activities successful, where did the metrics, like it says, did you implement the activities? And I would think, even without the results of the state assessments, we would know whether we implemented the activities we promised we would implement last year. So it seems like a strange comment to make on that question.
That is absolutely true. So we were just saying we do need to take a look at that before we turn this in. Then.
Okay. And do you think maybe we did more than 20% of what we said we were going to do last year?
We absolutely did. We were just being conservative, because I'd rather underestimate and then come back and say, oh, good. It was way better than that.
All right.
And you want to talk about the student?
Hi. Yes, so we will be delivering the student learning plans this fall, winter, and spring. And those plans will have the NWEA data from the MAP-R and the MAP-M tests. In addition, we've had the team working on how to make the plan. It's really just a front and back piece of paper with student goals, with what a parent can do. And there will be 4 or 5 things that a parent can do to help. We're focusing on literacy for K-5. And then what the teacher is doing that is absolutely 100% connected to the literacy curriculum. So we pulled those things out based upon the student's RIT score. And the parent information, we tried to keep it. We didn't want to do the things like you've all heard, read to your children 20 minutes a night. Dependent upon the RIT score, it might say something like, read to your child 20 minutes and ask him to identify beginning consonant sounds, or ask your child to identify suffixes, and that is all tied directly to the NWEA data.
Oh, sorry, thank you. So this is actually running around getting the signatures right now, and some people are on vacation. So this will have signatures and will have names. It's just a matter of the actual original is running around getting signatures.
And the meeting dates and locations? I mean, this seems odd that that's blank.
Yes, I have not gone back through to put those in.
It is because it's supposed to be approved by July 31st. However, that's correct. It's supposed to be approved by July 31st. Yes. Since we do have an emergency meeting next week to approve the contracts, if there were issues with, it is something that we could table. Approval, I think we should continue discussion right now.
I would like to hear what all your thoughts are, and then we'll take revisions and get them in by next week.
Dr. Brandon, do you have anything?
Would you like next week to talk about it?
Yeah.
But I'll let you start if you want it. No. So I don't really have questions because I think it's very, very clear, and I actually read it. But what I do want to tell you is how deeply disappointed I am in district leadership. And I'm deeply disappointed because this is the same story I've heard now for all these years, and this is what is reflected in the ineffective HEDI rating from State Ed. And for everybody hasn't read it, it's a very, very clear read. And going through it, it tells us that, reading what they tell us is, the district does not have a unified system to determine the professional development needs across the district or to measure the impact of these PD practices to impact student achievement. The district has PD practices, but it doesn't have a unified system to determine precise needs, and it goes on. So that's in that occurs in the ineffective rating about curriculum and the lack of a vertically aligned Common Core curriculum and student learning resources. That is apparent where they tell us the district has not yet articulated a clear vision for effective teaching and rigor or adopted common protocols. Then it tells us, I could go on, there is no community engagement plan, even though we have a community engagement person. And I read how one of the steps is we're going to have the community decide it in concert with the community person. Again, I have a very different view as a board member of what the superintendent and team does. And the superintendent and team has a plan, and then it gets articulated, but then it gets implemented. And where I seem to share the State Ed problem is this is not the first time that we have gotten presentations about how we're going to need to do data We're going to have to figure out how to engage students, and we're going to have to, figure out PD. We have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on new PD that I supported wholeheartedly against a lot of community members who came and spoke. And yet we have no measurements, and we cannot go past theory in this district. And you're nodding, and we all like one another. And the reality, unfortunately, is that that's not enough. Theory just doesn't do it. So I am deeply disappointed. And the reason I don't have a question is because this is not news to me. I cannot approve this. I will not approve it because I do not see anything in the document, nor have I heard anything while I've been sitting as a board member the last year that shows me that we are able, through personnel, through implementation and management leadership skills at all levels in central office, able to actually implement the wonderful theories that may appear on paper. So that's what I have to say.
It seems like this was kind of cut and pasted and not necessarily done thoughtfully. I'm sure there was caring that was put into it, but it's not. It's something, as I read through this, each of the different so many of the things in here we have discussed and planned as a district over and over again through the years. So I guess the bottom line is I'm just kind of disappointed that this was our end product, because even though I understand that you weren't given a wealth of time, and that is another thing in and of itself, where a broader discussion of SED and the issues with it. But a lot of these things we've talked about. So I understand it's a different format, but if we've been doing the things that we have been talking about and planning, I wouldn't have expected this document from it. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to see a better product next week that kind of reflects a more comprehensive plan for this.
I think I'm ready to make a comment. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding what I thought I was understanding. The assessments on here for each of these tenants, tenant 1, district leadership and capacity, the rating is developing, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, developing. And for tenant 2, it's also developing, am I correct?
You mean 2.1 or 1?
2.1. The rating is developing, right?
Yes.
Now for tenant 3, for the curriculum, the rating is ineffective.
Yes.
And for teacher practices and decisions, it's developing also, right?
Yes.
And for student social and emotional development health, it is also developing.
Yes.
Family and community engagement, 6.1. The rating is also developing.
Yes.
A couple more minutes. About 3 ought to do it.
I make a motion for 5 minutes. You want more? 10. I make a motion to extend for 10 minutes, please.
Second. All in favor? Unanimous. 10 minutes on.
So what I'd like to know is there something to we do this every year, right? This has to be done every year? what has been the results, say, for the last 3 years? Ratings.
We'd have to look, yeah. I'd have to go
I
back
need
and
something
look.
to compare this to.
Okay.
I just can't talk off the cuff. I can't berate or talk down to you or anything in that area. I need something to compare this to. If I can get something to compare it to, then I can tell whether the needle is moved any way, one way or the other. And I can't talk off the top of my head. I got to see data. You understand what I mean?
Yep,
so if you get me some data, say last year, the last time you did this, and the time before that, then I'll have a statement to make, okay?
Can do.
This isn't the greatest news, but it isn't the end of the world either, because we've had in some time, I've seen some, I think, if my recollection is right, that have been worse than this before either of the two of you or this superintendent. So I need to see some data. Give me the last, something to compare this to, and then
Okay.
I'll be able to tell you where I think I'll be able to comment a little better.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think we're all done. So, thank you. Next up, action items. New middle school resolution. Can I get, this is just a motion, correct? Can I get a motion to approve approve the resolution to open the new West Hill Middle School? Mr. Bruce, second Ms. Adler. Is there any discussion? No.
I fear that Alex Stresnevsky and I share more than just initials. Can I please get the E in whereas on the fifth whereas down, which is missing an E, so that we can actually have proper spelling in the school district's resolutions? Thank you.
Just wondered if we could get an update on the number we have registered for the new middle school, if there's been an increase since the last time.
As of today, we have approximately 100 students registered for the middle school, with our outreach to those families who have not registered yet to determine whether they intend to come, if they've moved on, etc.
Thanks so much, because I know we were hoping to get to the triple digits for opening the school, so terrific. Thanks for the update.
All in favor? That is unanimous. Code of conduct policy. Can I get a motion to approve policy 5300, code of conduct? Anyone? I will move. Can I get Mr. Bruce seconds? Is there any discussion?
I'm just going to renew my comments from last time, mostly for people who are in the audience that may not have been here last time, that I am going to vote for this, but I'm only going to vote for it because I was not involved in the decision to only make these modest changes to a document that I think needs wholesale revision and rethinking. So I am honoring the work that has gone before by, there's nothing objectionable about the modifications. They are just an inch of modifications when we need a mile of modifications. And also I wanted to draw to the attention of my fellow board members that there was a version of this document that was on your desk, which is slightly different than the one that was emailed to us. And it is essentially, the changes were things that had been discussed in the policy committee and just not quite captured properly in the document. And there's nothing substantial in terms of the substance, but some of the language just was not grammatically correct or appropriately meaningful. And Jen and I corrected that. And if you needed to know specifically, I can walk you through. There were just 3 minor changes, but they're minor.
I just wanted to explain why I'd be voting against it. And that is because I do not have faith based on there not being training attendant to it, so that the implementation of the code of conduct will be done in the way it needs to be done in order to work effectively for students, and that while there was discussion about there being a needle moving in terms of the reduced suspensions, there were some grave problems with the implementation at the secondary levels last year for the code of conduct that really had a deleterious impact on students, and not only for those years that they were in at the time that the suspensions occurred, but for the future for them. And I do not trust that this document is in the form it needs to be and has the appropriate behavioral supports in place to adequately implement it for the benefit of the students.
Just one question. Who, again, exactly works on this code of conduct?
So the code of conduct sits with the director of pupil personnel services.
And that is now?
Right now it's no one.
The new fellow coming in, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And more specifically, the job description of the assistant director of pupil personnel services is specific to this document, the revision of this document, the ongoing process for assuring that it's revised on an annual basis, that it's reviewed based on data, and that it's implemented fully.
Is this a committee of people or just one person?
Yes.
How many people work on it?
I think there were 7 or 8 people on this committee.
Representative of what?
Of K-12 administration and teachers. And we also last year took it before PTA because it was a fully revised document last year.
And so how many people did you have working on it?
We had 7 or 8 working on it.
All total?
Specifically, yes.
Yeah. I would like to recommend that you expand your committee. Okay? I think a document of this magnitude and as important as it is, I don't think 7 people will cut it. You need a better cross-section, and I think that's could be one of the problems with it that we've had ever since I've been on this board.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had one that met everybody's satisfaction, and we probably never will, but I think we could do better than we're doing.
Yes, and there was inconsistent attendance at the...
Yeah, see, that's not going to cut it.
No, it
now,
isn't.
If the new fellow coming in is going to be the head of pupils whatever services, and he's in charge, he's going to have to get a committee of people together, a good cross-section, better than what we've had, because Ann is here not quite a year, and I'm here, some years. And I'm saying the same thing she's saying. I just have never been satisfied with this document.
Yeah.
There are flaws. You don't have to sit down. You can get maybe past the 4, 5, 6, 7 pages in, and you can see that there's just inconsistencies and almost some impossibilities in there for our children, and then the teachers have got to administer it, and it just is not fair. I think I said this before, and I hate to be repetitive, but you're telling me only 7 people take care of this. That's not a good representation for a document as important that we're going to be holding teachers' feet to the fire to make sure it's implemented correctly, and we don't even have something decent in front of them. And I hate to say this, but it's still not right. The document, the book, the code, it still isn't right.
Right.
It's almost impossible to follow some of what they've got in there. So when he does come on board, Madam Superintendent, somebody talk to him and tell him that this group that's taking care of it, as far as I'm concerned, for the last 7 years, they've just failed. We need to have a better document for our kids and our people. Seriously. Okay? Thank you so much.
that's it. We're out of time. So
Okay.
thank you. Next up, we have routine consent. Oh, no. We're going to vote on this next week. Do I need to do anything? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong thing. We have to vote on the code of conduct. So now I have to get a vote. I got a minute. I moved. Kenny second. All in favor? So that is Savage, Bruce, Farrell, and Brandon in favor. Any abstentions? Any no votes? That is Adler in the negative. Routine consent. Can I get a motion for routine consent? Mr. Bruce, can I get a second? Dr. Brandon, are there any set-asides? Please do them slowly. Okay.
Whenever you're ready. Okay. I can wait. So I would like to set aside the 2 Boys and Girls Clubs of Albany contracts. I would like to set aside the YMCA contract, the CEL contract, and the truancy abatement contract, which is the City of Albany Department of Youth and Workforce Services. I think that's it. Oh, and also the Williams College contract. There's 3 boys and girls? Do I only have 1?
Which one do you have? How much?
Where's the other one?
One's under 10. One's 342. How much is yours?
Yeah, no, the other one that's under 10, I don't see that contract. I only
there's no
Oh, right. So no, the 342,000 and the 64. The actual ones I have the contracts for.
Yes.
Both. And you got the Williams College one. Okay, Boys and Girls Clubs, the actual contract forms, the YMCA, CEL, the City of Albany Department of Youth and Workforce Services, and Williams College.
Any other set-asides? All in favor of routine consent minus the resolution to approve agreement, the Boys and Girls Club of Albany, 2 contracts that are not under $10,000, the YMCA, CEL, truancy abatement, which is the City of Albany Workforce, and Williams College contract. That is unanimous. Can I get a motion to approve the City School District of Albany Resolution Approval of Agreement? Ms. Adler, motions. Can I get a second? Ms. Savage? Okay. All in favor? That is Savage, Bruce, Adler, Farrell. Abstentions? Opposition? Or are you? Oh, yes, abstentions. Dr. Brandon is abstaining. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to approve The Boys and Girls, do you want Boys and Girls Club one at a time or together? Boys and Girls Club of Albany in the amount of $342,000 and change. Ms. Adler, a second, please. Mr. Bruce, is there any discussion?
So this is not the first time that we have dealt with a 21st century grant, which has provided for the Boys and Girls Club as one of the providers for our students. And we are again being asked to provide another year's worth of the contract, and we have not gotten measurable results from the prior years. And it says specifically in measurable results that, for example, one of the measures is NWEA test scores in reading and math will be collected in the fall, winter, and spring. And even though this was the first year currently that we did a 3 times a year NWEA, we certainly had 2 data points the year before, and I cannot continue to approve contracts for which measurables are listed, measurables are not provided year after year. It is, to me, it is fiscally, to quote somebody on the board, fiscally and programmatically irresponsible to do that. So that is my position on this contract.
In line with Ms. Adler's comments, who is responsible to follow up on the measurable results?
Part of that is, oh, so sorry. I'm so sorry. Part of that is the responsibility of Boys and Girls Club in providing that information to the district. The other part is this information goes into the grant application itself, and they provide that information back to the 21st Century group. We just have to ask for that information back out because she has to report that to 21st Century, and they have to report that to the SIG at Schuyler Achievement Academy. So that data, my assumption is that data is available through Boys and Girls Club, and we can get this back out to you so that you'd be more comfortable to approve this.
Thank you, Superintendent, very much for that. I would propose that the 2 Boys and Girls Club contracts actually be tabled until such time as we get that information. Unless, of course, the majority of the board chooses otherwise and wants to approve it, and that's their choice.
I thank you for answering my question, Superintendent, and so far as how the chain goes with the follow-up to make sure that the measurable results are reported. But it seems like Ms. Adler is saying that we don't get the information as we should, or apparently we just started to get the information. I'm not quite understanding that.
The Boys and Girls Club is accountable to the 21st Century grant. So
not to us?
Right. We administer the program. Mm-hmm. We support the program, and they're in our schools. But when this Boys and Girls Club reports it, they're reporting it to the 21st Century grant, reporting it to the School Improvement Grant at SA. And what I'm saying is we just need to get that information from them and bring it back to you so you can have it.
And we haven't been doing that?
This is the second year of this grant, 21st Century grant, and the second year at SA.
Okay. Thank you. I just had that question on that one. Now, does that same procedure apply to the one for $64,000? Does that same procedure,
Correct.
insofar as funneling the getting the information to see if there were measurable results?
Correct.
I just needed to know that. Thank you.
So I believe we can table that, but just a question, and I'd like to make sure that we don't,
do we have to vote to table it?
I'll find that out, but I just want to make sure that as we're not passing these, that we're not disrupting any services. So if you can,
Exactly.
I'm a little
Does
concerned about that.
everybody want a table? That's my question. Yeah.
This grant is for September through June, and so we would be able to do this. Oh, staffing. Oh, they have to hire staff.
Well, can't we still go ahead with it and get that information that she's asking for? I agree with Madam President. We don't need to hold up we don't need to hold up anything that we've got going here, because this just looks like a reporting of data problem, or a reporting of the measuring metric, and I don't think we need to hold up the program for that.
Ken is subtly suggesting over here that we just put this on the agenda for the next board meeting as a discussion item. I think your suggestion is we pass these so that we can keep the program going, but we put it as an agenda item so that it does not slide away, but that we do not disrupt the services to our children. That is a risk, because if the measurables come back and they are terrible, we have now passed a contract for a year. But, this is where we,
Right. So, I mean, I just wanted to respond to what Dr. Brendan had said. So for me, it's not just getting the measurables, it's actually getting the measurables and assessing them. And if they're not doing the trick, then actually, it's sort of like the summer school discussion that we had, and we were like, if it costs more money, Ms. Antonetti, come back to us from a different program, because if it doesn't work and then the answer is another provider costs more money, well then great. Then let's find a provider that costs more money but has better measurables. So I'll still vote against it, but whatever you want to do after we have a motion on right now we should vote on, and then move on to the next one.
Why don't we vote on it and then see if we have to do something differently. All in favor of the it's just one. It's the $342,000 Boys and Girls Club of Albany contract. That is Savage, Bruce, Farrell, and Brandon in favor. Against? Adler. The motion passes. Next up. There's more. Can I get a motion, since we've done so well in the Boys and Girls Club contract, let's continue forward with that. Can I get a motion to approve the Boys and Girls Club of Albany for $64,000 and change? Ms. Adler, a second. Mr. Bruce, any discussion?
Ditto.
Ditto.
All in favor? Savage, Bruce, Farrell, Brandon, all against. Adler. Can I get a motion to approve the YMCA contract? Ms. Adler, a second. Mr. Bruce, any discussion?
So I would start out quickly just by saying that I don't like the measurables here, because they're how people feel, whether they're satisfied. But when I actually thought about that, I realized that was actually like Groundhog Day, because I remember a Capital District YMCA contract coming up. I'm looking to that table. And remember saying the same thing about the measurables, and then hearing either the superintendent or someone saying that they actually don't do that kind of assessment. So then my question is, now that you understand my whole metamorphosis, why am I getting another contract again for the summer? Please just tell me so I understand how it's different, in the sense, because I know we had one of these for the summer before.
Because that's right.
Oh, so we tabled it. So what's different than them? I have a different question. What's different now?
There isn't anything different at this juncture. The Capital District YMCA uses a survey system to determine the degree to which parents and students are happy with their program. This is the data that they collect for the Y. And so when I said to them, how much more or what do you have, This is what they're being asked for by their board of directors, and this is what they're asked for. This is how they determine whether a parent is satisfied with a program. So this isn't different. Yeah, this isn't different.
Well, thank you for explaining it because I really thought I had lost my mind.
Nope.
So it is the same thing. So I am just going to make a blanket statement that I with all due respect to the YMCA, I cannot vote as a school district board member to expend funds for programs, whether they be in the summer or during the school year, that do not have a component in it that in some way has an impact on whether it's done social and emotionally and then impacts academic growth in a student, or it's done academically to impact academic growth. I don't hold the keys as to what exactly the right indicia are. But that said, just for how people feel about having their child go through the program is not something in good conscience I can spend as a school board. If the city wants to do it, and provide it for children, that's great. So that's why I will generally now be opposing all of those.
And I think the only thing I would add is that this is really about the summer, and this is about satisfaction with the program. Were your kids happy? Did they do their work? And that's the measure that they are speaking of.
And so the last thing, just to make clear, is I understand it's this past summer, but for me, to spend $80,000, which is the equivalent of a teacher's salary, when we do benefits and stuff, and we know what an FTE is in the summer, I'd sooner actually have something that was academically or educationally related to expend that. I guess we have to go home. Sorry. Okay, bye. But anyway, that's all I mean. I understand that that's how they measure, but I do think that we have a different role as a school board.
I just, I remember the question coming up when Alex Stresnevsky was president with regard to what academically the Y did for our children. Remember that, Madam President? And I believe it was Ms. Smith, Nolene, that explained to the board at that particular time very explicitly the role of the Y in their program, and that it was not founded or compounded on academics. It never had been. And during the prior years, when we had asked them to come in and do an after-school program for us, it looks like, what they're calling measurable is actually just about what their implementation is about. So I really don't see any fault in it or the amount of money that we're paying for it, because it serves it's serving its purpose. It was never set out to be really an academically enhanced program from the outset. So, and for that reason, I personally don't see any problem with it, and I probably will be voting for it.
I just wanted to know, is it something that we could do in-house to track NWEA results for kids who were in this program versus kids who were not in this program? Because I think that the argument presumably is that what these sort of soft skills that the Y focuses on do lead hopefully to better outcomes for these children in their life, which would hopefully be reflected in the NWEA scores. So Vader results is even better. Is that something that, and I think Mark is still in the house. I don't know, maybe he's gone. Is it something that is relatively easy for us to disaggregate the data in that way, to do an A/B test versus kids in versus out?
Yes.
And that brings up probably the same question that I asked about the prior contract. How are we, is it being monitored by our people for any kind of results? Is this program by the Y being monitored in any way by our people for any results, whether it's social, emotional, or whatever? I guess that's my other question.
The conversation with the Y, the Boys and Girls Club, and others providers is around social, emotional, and the degree of satisfaction. We are not monitoring. We are monitoring the programs, but their responsibility is to their particular board of directors, and they give us, they can give us a report. But
the degree to which we are doing that is limited just by staff. Our hopes, of course, if we ever can get that after-school extended day person in that spot, that will become their responsibility. And so I'm hoping that position will be approved and we'll find the right leader for that work. Because I do agree, we have to have a better handle on it while we recognize they have to report in a different structure than what we're used to.
So is this something, I mean, is there a desire to wait for measurables on this? Or, well, why don't I call a vote and we'll see. All in favor of the YMCA summer contract? That is Savage, Bruce, Farrell, Brandon. Against? Adler. Passes. Can I get a motion for Williams College contract?
Center for Cell.
Oh, sure. That's fine. That's fine. I just have it stacked differently. So I'll do Sal next. Sorry. Can I get a motion for the Center for Educational Leadership contract? Ms. Adler, a second, please. Mr. Bruce. Is there any discussion?
We're on sale now, right. So this, again, is not, I get to use this metaphor, not the first rodeo with the cell. And once again, we are not getting actual data on this. And we should have data already from the cell contracts that were done. And that troubles me that we're continuing to extend the contracts for them without at least data. I know we voted on the PD plan, but I expected as part of that to know how we were doing. My concern is, for example, that we're continuing to spend, and we just had done this against the backdrop of the DCIP, and the DCIP for the state made it clear that while we have theoretical PD, we have plans, the implementation and the cohesiveness, not cohesive, the coherency in the district, and it actually impacting teacher practices and student engagement seems to be lacking. And we just, once again, just keep having contracts. We say the same things and the contracts keep getting voted in. So that's my spiel for this one.
The difference between this contract and others is that this is specifically for SA. And you did receive a report from SA talking about the impact of CEL with teacher practice and student engagement. This is not a contract that is going everywhere. This is focused to ensure that SAW continues on the trajectory that it is, and it's coming through the school improvement grant that they've already submitted their plan for.
Thank you. That was terrific. So I will now vote for this. I very much appreciate that, Karen. You got your exercise, but you could. Thanks a lot, Superintendent. I appreciate that.
All in favor? We're unanimous on that. Can I get a motion? Hopefully I'm doing the right one. City of Albany, Development of Youth and Workforce Services. Is everybody pleased with that one next? If so, you need to move someone. Ms. Adler. Then I need a second. Mr. Bruce.
So this is like from the grave. Stan Harper submitted this. Anyway, no, he's alive and well, but he submitted this, I guess, right before he left or later. I am going to just do like a couple of minutes on this. I'm going to basically ask, I know there's a motion to approve, but I'm going to ask that we actually do not approve this, not just the one where I'm voting against it. And the reason is that in speaking with the high school about the city workforce truancy work, which is not the first time they've been doing it for us, what my understanding is that we are not actually getting the services that we need. I'm not criticizing an individual, it's just that this program is not working, and that at a time when we are now on, as the high school, on the 2-year list and have been identified, that it would be, that the leadership would appreciate being able to have a different program. And I know we haven't had a presentation on this, but we could put it on for the next agenda. hopefully, because it would be an urgent matter, and then it could be spoken to and find out what actually we need to do to help in this area, because as we know, if you're physically not in school, then you can't get actual learning done, et cetera, et cetera. So
By next agenda, do you mean August?
August, yeah, for the August, so that I'm not asking for this to be held in abeyance forever, but I really would like, since I know personally that we have been doing this, and I questioned it last year as well, but we have been doing this department from the City of Albany has been helping us with this all this time. I would like for us to get something where our leadership in a turnaround school does not get taken over and instead gets the kind of work that it needs. And if this is a piece of it, let's get at least somebody to talk to us for a few minutes, ask questions, and see where we're at.
I would concur, and at the same time, I'm going to try to explain part of the dilemma. The truancy abatement program was created by the city at the time when there was another mayor in the seat. And since then, it's evolved to a partnership between the city, the county, and the school district. Those myriad of partners have a variety of places that they report to, and getting all of the people moving in the same direction is the next set of work. I am very clear that there are issues with this program from inside our organization as well as our community partnership. But I would not want to have this jettisoned because it is important that we figure out how we're going to get our kids back in school. Processes, programs, and protocols are not well established. And so between the internal struggle as well as the external partners, I would agree. I am working on that. I don't know if I will have sufficient enough information pulling those folks together in order for that to occur before we need to get this group up and running. But I will do my best by the August meeting to get as much information to you as possible. I've already convened, set out dates to convene that entire group together, and we'll move forward. So I concur, Ms. Adler, between all of those partners, it's not working as well as it should, but I do know that this partnership will not be able to continue without us having some sort of investment in it. So I will endeavor to bring that back by August and convene that group together and come up with the next steps to better clarify roles, responsibilities, et cetera.
And in addition to that, what I would like to have in August, because I think it's important for the board to be able to provide essential sort of support for these schools that are on the list, is I'd like, depending on summer schedules, to have Mike Panetta and Dale Ghetto come to the board so that we can basically, because Mike's the operations person and Dale is the acting principal, and that would be very, very helpful so that we could hear from the in-building perspective as well as outside the building what's going on and what really needs to be done. And if it's more, then let's see if we can do more. If it's just a different provider, great. If it's the same one with some tweaks, it would be great to involve us at this point now that they're on the list.
Is there any time element with this, Madam Superintendent or Ms. Adler, because you're the liaison for over there, where if we hold up on this, that we won't be able to operate as normal? Can this be tabled or whatever until you do what you're going to do, Superintendent?
The truancy abatement program is running right now to try to get our students into summer school so that they stay in summer school. I would have to determine with the leaders the degree to which this would have an impact. Obviously, there are people working right now that are dependent on a particular salary to do the work. So I will have to look into that. If this has to come back immediately next week, then I'll try to get as much information as I can in case the program is impacted by this.
That's my question. Is the program?
So. Yes. You withdraw your motion?
I would like to withdraw my motion.
Mr. Bruce, would you like to withdraw your second? Sure. Motion is withdrawn. Can I get a motion for the Williams College contract? Ms. Adler, a second, please. I will second. That is Farrell seconds. Is there any discussion?
No, the last one for me was Williams, and that was actually more of a question on, I think, just some of the wording in here. So I don't know who to ask, but
Where are you, Sue?
on the additional information relating to instructional contracts sheet, two things. It talks about CCSS, but on the first page it's CCLS, so I just want to make sure that we get that together and have it read the right acronym. And then under measurable results, on the the fifth line, it seems to talk about a control, like they're going to have one group do one thing and one group the other. And I want to make sure that they meant to write ELA in there and that wasn't supposed to be math. In other words, I don't know if they meant to put ELA because it's a control group,
right?
or they meant to put, it was like they copied it from an ELA thing and that was the one place they didn't move math. It could be the ELA, but I just want to make sure. Those were the two things I wanted to check.
That is correct. It is correct.
And then is CCSS another acronym that is the same as CCLS? Oh, nationwide.
Right.
UCCLS. Awesome. So whatever we need to find, thank you. And that was so easy. Thank you.
All in favor? Oh.
My comment is general, and I'd like to say I appreciate the upgrade and information provided on the contracts for all that were involved. Thank you.
All in favor? That is unanimous. We are all done with contracts right now.
Can I talk about routine consent today?
Yes.
So with that vote, you have approved the contract for the new assistant principal for West Hill Middle School, Demetria Rose.
Congratulations and thank you very much. How about some board committee reports? Now, I will say we've already talked about the facilities, so we all remember that. Is there any other board committee reports anybody would like to weigh in on? Seeing none, let's move forward to board member items. Do we have any board member items? Ms. Savage.
I'm just making sure we did not drop the thread of wanting to hear about Boys and Girls Club measurables as a definitive member item for the next agenda. Okay, so I would like to have a report from the Boys and Girls Club performance metrics at our next board meeting, because that's something we're going to try and do with board member items, right? Be more specific about when we're going to do it, right? Hopefully, yeah. Whenever possible, right?
Now, my quick question to board, is this something that needs to be a presentation, or can this be just a report? Yeah. So why don't we start as the report, and if there's an interest for a presentation, then we can. So a straw poll for interest in a report on the Boys and Girls Club measurables. That passes. That's unanimous. So that is not a presentation, but rather a report. Is there anything else? Mr. Bruce, you appeared to be leaning forward. Go ahead and lean in.
Yes, I have a question. Routine consent doesn't have a time. Does it usually have a time? We should probably extend the time for the next meeting.
I just wanted to bring up truancy abatement, since that was just to tie the circles together. Can I get a straw poll? And I would actually say a presentation on truancy abatement. We've got 4. And then I also was interested in a presentation on vision cards. They're used as a measurable on I'm forgetting the acronym, apologies, the DSIP. And it's something we use in our district. It's something that I know I've not been totally comfortable with, and I think that's been consistent from the board floor, and I just wanted to have a presentation on vision cards so we can reconnect it.
If you could hold on that, probably until mid-fall. We're in the middle of dismantling and putting those back together because you talked about how difficult they were to read and manage. We're in the middle of that right now, so we can show that to you. So we heard you loud and clear, but we're in the middle of that right now.
So if it's okay, I'm fine with waiting till fall, but if we could get a straw poll to put it on the official list, that would be great. We've got 4, so that's there. Any other board member items?
Actually, if you also go into your mail, we got last year, because I'd asked for them, we actually got some additional reports back on the DCIP and the SCEP. So I think these were sent by mail. I think they were sent by email when I asked for them in the winter.
So moving on, other business. Does anyone have any other business? Bill does not have any other business. And now that we no longer have the mood lighting. Thank you, Andre, although it was a nice addition. Next time, play music. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Oh, suddenly everybody wants to move. Ms. Savage, a second by Ms. Adler. All in favor? Unanimous.
Hour and a half early, Rose.